good evening, and happy Halloween, and welcome to the top 10 scariest moments. It's actually quite hot in this. As you know, tonight is Halloween, and in order to celebrate All Hallows Eve, I've decided to have a look at my top 10 scariest moments in film. So let's start off, shall we? So our first moment is from the 1959 film House on Haunted Hill. Here, Frederick Loren, played magnificently by Vincent Price,
make a good headline, Playboy kills wife with champagne cork,
has organised a party for his wife at a house which is supposed to be haunted. And to spice things up, he decides to put up $10,000 for each person who actually spends a night there. One of these people is Nora, his employee from one of his businesses. While being given the tour, she and Lance decide to investigate the basement, where she suddenly finds herself alone when the door slams shut by itself.
Lance!
Now, while this might not seem like much, it actually sent chills down my spine. The way the music sounded, the darkened room, the way the woman appears to glide across the floor, the fact that all she does is stare, not uttering a single word, before gliding away again, disappearing into the shadows. Now, it may not be terrifying, but it certainly got me in the mood for the rest of the film, where it's eventually revealed that there are no ghosts. It was just a way for Frederick to kill off his wife and her lover before they kill him.
It's a pity you didn't know when you started your game of murder that I was playing too.
And there is the reason why this film is actually really good. It's not that it's haunted, or that it has Vincent Price once again dominating the film, or that it's got a good story or characters. It's the way it plays with your mind. It's what you think is happening rather than what actually is happening.
That's Jonas Slides and his wife. They've been caretakers here for years.
Unlike the goddamn remake. Oh yes, I'll be going over that film probably next year. Okay, yes, the film is dated, I won't deny that. Of course it's dated, it's over 50 years old. This film managed to make a successful ghost story without any actual ghosts. Or did it?
They're coming for me now. And then they'll come for you.
Okay, you have to admit the Japanese know how to do horror. The next one on the list comes from Audition, a film where a man, lonely after the death of his wife, does a fake audition process in order to find a new girlfriend. The problem is, the girl he chooses has lost a few marbles. And when he calls her, we find her waiting for his call. And unlike House on Haunted Hill, there is no music. It is just her sitting there. The only sound we hear comes from the phone. We're already creeped out. Jesus Christ! It's like it sneaks up on you. It comes the hell out of nowhere. It's done so well, simply because the film throws a curveball at you. I mean, you don't expect this to happen. You don't expect it to have this thing. It was a completely unnerving scene. Like House on Haunted Hill, simply because we don't know what's in the sack. Again, it's what you think is in there rather than what you know is in there. Then again, this scene is probably made more disturbing after you know what's actually in there. And yet, throughout the first hour or so of this film, we actually see a completely different side of her. We see a cheerful and happy girl, and then we see this transformation into this maniac who proceeds to torture this man, all the while with that grin on her face. Hostel wishes it was this good in showing torture. Don't worry, I'm sure you guys don't need reminding of how much I detested the remake. You bastard! This film is an insult. Basically, this film is an abomination of cinematic history. Morons! But don't worry, I'll be talking about the original, mostly. And just in case you've forgotten, the fog deals with a town called Antonio Bay slowly being terrorised by Blake and his crew who want revenge for their deaths 100 years prior, and their gold being stolen to build the town. And I'm sure you remember my feelings on how Aunt Connie was killed off. Unlike Mrs. Cobrit's death scene.
I want to see who it is. No. Can't I stay for 2 more seconds? Okay, I'm going.
It is simply because of this misdirection here that makes this scene scary. Andy is our focus here, the actual scare is in the background, so by drawing this away, we don't actually see the ghosts until it's too late. That was back when films knew how to be scary. Unlike the goddamn remake.
Fog bank out there. Hey, there's a fog bank out there.
Our next scare comes from another of one of horror's best films. Believe me, if you have not seen The Thing, go and watch it. Well, the 1982 version anyway. The 2011 version, it was okay. The Thing follows an American Antarctic research station where they rescue a dog from some Norwegians who appear to be crazy. It is then revealed that the dog is in actual fact some sort of alien life form which consumes and replicates its targets.
Mac wants the flamethrower. Mac wants the what? That's what he said. Now move! Damn it.
The American crew now don't know who to trust, and they know that the Thing cannot reach civilization or that will spell the end of mankind.
I know I'm human. And if you were all these things, then you'd just attack me right now. So some of you are still human.
This film is full of scary moments, like the stomach opening up, the dog monster, the first signs of a human being consumed by the Thing. But this list is going to look at the best known one, the blood test. Basically, in order to test who's infected, our hero MacReady is planning to take a red hot pin to each and everyone's blood and see if we will react to it.
Palmer now.
This is pure nonsense. Doesn't prove a thing.
I thought you'd feel that way, Gary. You were the only one that could have got to that blood. We'll do you last.
Get away from me! MacReady!
The good news is, it works. The bad news is, everyone else is tied up next to it. We all knew that one of them has to be the Thing, so the whole film actually, is based around paranoia and uncertainty. I mean, even MacReady isn't ready for it.
We'll do you last.
Simply because the film goes and makes us think that the Thing is going to be the last person to be tested rather than the first.
Been through a lot. And when you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch!
When it's finally revealed who's the Thing, we see the others screaming for their lives as the Thing transforms and gets ready to consume another. What's actually even more disturbing is the fact that this test shows that one of the people whom MacReady has already killed was not actually infected.
And Clark was human, huh? Which makes you a murderer, don't it?
So if the hero can't trust his decisions, if we can't trust the hero, who can we trust?
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Now, this was a film I've recently come across, and boy was it weird. Basically, a doctor is experimenting with patients who suffer from mental illnesses, getting them to treat their illnesses through their body rather than their actions. The result is that one of his patients, Nola, creates a mutant child of some sort which goes about acting out her thoughts. She doesn't like someone, these little guys will bash their head in. And it's because of this where we get number 6 on my list. You see, up until this point we have mainly been following Nola's estranged husband, who she is in a legal battle with for custody of their child Candace. We've also been watching them interact with Ruth, who is Candace's teacher. We've been watching them grow closer. We've come to care for Ruth. And then this happens.
Dad, could you want to pass out the blue papers,
This person here? Yeah.
You can do snowflakes too. That's a good idea. This is larger.
She is bludgeoned to death by 2 of Nola's children. What's frightening about this is that this takes place in the classroom. Adults believe that their child or children are safe at school. They're looked after. They are looked after someone who will look out for them. But to then watch the scene grow increasingly eerie, and then to watch these kids witness their teacher get attacked and killed in front of their eyes, it must have been horrifying for them. Well, I say horrifying, only one of them actually goes off running for help, while the others just watch. They don't even cry. I assume they're in shock. But that doesn't obscure the point that this place of sanctuary has been invaded by pure and utter hate. And that's the scariest bit of this, really. I mean, you think you're safe, but how safe are you?
I sicken you. You hate me.
Now, I think we all know what I'm referring to here. In case you've been living under a rock and don't know what Psycho is for some reason, it is probably Alfred Hitchcock's most famous film. Here we follow Marion Crane, who has just stolen $40,000 from the company she works for. While on the run, she stops at the Bates Motel, where she meets the proprietor, Norman Bates.
Wouldn't it be
He
better
mentions his mother,
if you
who
put
he
her...
says is mentally unsound. but gets angry at the thought of leaving her with someone else.
You mean an institution? A madhouse? People always call a madhouse someplace, don't they?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it to sound uncaring.
What do you know about caring?
The conversation does, however, persuade Marion to do the right thing, turn herself in and return the money. Unfortunately, and here the audience start to panic. At the half-hour-ish mark, the rules of cinema have just been thrown out the window. Marion was our protagonist. We're supposed to identify with her. We're supposed to care about her. We're supposed to follow her throughout the whole film. And then she's suddenly killed off, and the film is blown wide open. If the main character can be killed off so soon, what else will happen? I mean, what can we expect to happen in this film? The scene itself was shocking, not only for the reasons I've just mentioned, but also because we never actually see the blade pierce Marion's skin. Again, like several of the other options I've put on this list, it's not what you see, it's what you think you see. Heck, this has become somewhat a phenomenon throughout the years, with many now using DVDs to go frame by frame to see if the blade actually touches her skin. I'd rather leave it as it is.
We all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
It is the mark of a good storyteller who tells you the scare moments before it happens, and yet it still scares the crap out of you when you see it. Mulholland Drive is a bit of a weird film, one which will probably require multiple viewings to make sense of it. We mainly follow a woman suffering from amnesia who is assisted by Betty, played by Naomi Watts. However, our scare comes from two completely different people. Two men are at a diner, and one of them tells the other about the significance of the diner.
I had a dream about this place, and I'm scared like I can't tell you. Of all people, you're standing right over there, by that counter, and you're scared. Then I realize what it is. There's a man in back of this place. I can see his face. I hope that I never see that face ever outside of a dream.
The two men then leave, reenacting the dream. And this is why it's scary. The fact that we were just told about this nightmare featuring a man nightmares are made from, and now we are living out that nightmare. We can't stop it. We are forced to live through the nightmare. We want them to stop. We want them to turn back. I hope this film has something enjoyable to watch. Hello?
Have you ever done this before? I don't know. Have you?
Moving on. Right, so our next scare comes from Mickey's Christmas.
What are you talking about?
I mean, what is scary about Christmas?
It's Santa and tinsel and mistletoe. There's literally nothing scary about Christmas.
Let me explain.
What were you thinking?
Hey! Imagine it. You're a child. It's Christmas. There's joy in the world. Everyone's happy. Everyone's got presents. Everyone is having so much fun. And then everyone sits down to watch Mickey and friends perform the greatest Christmas story ever told. And they do a really good job at it. They show Scrooge's emotions, his turmoil. It's a really good adaptation. And then Scrooge is taken to a graveyard. The ghost of Christmas Future shows him his own grave. Scrooge is facing death itself. The picture turns blood red as the ghost of Christmas Future pushes Scrooge into his own grave. And then the gates of fucking hell open up. The flames are reaching higher and higher. Scrooge is begging for his life, but it falls on deaf ears. And then... So, can you see what I mean?
I didn't think it was possible, but... Yep, you did it. You killed Christmas! Rudolph!
Well, nobody's perfect.
Oh god, this scene. Don't Look Now follows two parents who are trying to get over the loss of their daughter, who drowned some time before. John, played by Donald Sutherland, is being haunted by a girl in red in some sort of vision. One night, he chases the ghost of his daughter.
Hey,
He eventually corners her. He speaks softly to her.
I won't hurt you.
The main problem with this? It's not his daughter! I was not expecting that at all. The film does hint that something bad is going to happen, but at the most we probably suspected that he'd suffer some injury chasing the ghost of his daughter, which is some kind of buried guilt concerning his daughter's death. What we weren't expecting is this! We weren't expecting that person in the red hood to not be John's daughter. We weren't expecting him to die. We were expecting a youthful girl, not an old woman. This is one hell of a scary scene. This whole film is one scary moment.
Viewer beware, you're in for a scare.
Good evening, and happy Halloween, and welcome to the top 10 scariest moments. It's actually quite hot in this. As you know, tonight is Halloween, and in order to celebrate All Hallows Eve, I've decided to have a look at my top 10 scariest moments in film. So let's start off, shall we? So our first moment is from the 1959 film House on Haunted Hill. Here, Frederick Loren, played magnificently by Vincent Price,
Make a good headline. Playboy kills wife with champagne cork.
has organised a party for his wife at a house which is supposed to be haunted. And to spice things up, he decides to put up $10,000 for each person who actually spends a night there. One of these people is Nora, his employee from one of his businesses. While being given the tour, she and Lance decide to investigate the basement, where she suddenly finds herself alone when the door slams shut by itself.
Lance!
Now, while this might not seem like much, it actually sent chills down my spine. The way the music sounded, the darkened room, the way the woman appears to glide across the floor, the fact that all she does is stare, not uttering a single word, before gliding away again, disappearing into the shadows. Now, it may not be terrifying, but it certainly got me in the mood for the rest of the film, where it's eventually revealed that there are no ghosts. It was just a way for Frederick to kill off his wife and her lover before they kill him.
It's a pity you didn't know when you started your game of murder that I was playing too.
And there is the reason why this film is actually really good. It's not that it's haunted, or there has Vincent Price once again dominating the film, or that it's got a good story or characters. It's the way it plays with your mind. It's what you think is happening rather than what actually is happening.
That's Jonas Slides and his wife. They've been caretakers here for years.
Unlike the